What's up guys, today we're going to be going over this new GL, the Truthteller, which may just be the best option to replace Mountaintop once it's sunset out of the game after the season. So in this video, we will be breaking down the best perks on this weapon, the God Roll, comparing its DPS to that Mountaintop, and also breaking down some really cool builds with this weapon. Also, we're going to start off by talking about how you actually get this weapon. This weapon is a part of the world drop pool in this season, which means you can pretty much get it anywhere that you can get any legendary item in the game. For example, legendary engrams from the Cryptarch, you can buy them for 25 legendary shards. You can get this from the gunsmith, which I did. I used 10,000 mats and got 3 along the way. You can get it from Crucible, Vanguard, and even Umbral engrams. It's pretty much anywhere in the game, so let me know where you got it from. And yeah, now moving on to the best perks on this weapon. In the first column, it doesn't really matter. If you're going for pure damage, you want lower blast radius. If you're going for ag clear, you want higher blast radius, so that's pretty much the only difference there. Then in the second column, there's going to be 3 main perks we're going to look at. First, looking at spike grenades on this weapon, and this is pretty much going to be the best option for damage increase in this column. As you see, without it, we hit these numbers right here. And then with spike grenades, the impact will go up quite a bit. The impact goes up by 40%, and it's going to be roughly a 10% increase to the overall damage of the weapon. Another magazine option I want to highlight is going to be blinding grenades, which in my opinion is one of the most underrated pieces of utility in Destiny 2. The Wendigo GL3 has blinding grenades on it, and that was one of the best weapons in the entire game since it came out. But that weapon too will be sunset after the season, which means you'll have to get a special grenade launcher with blinding grenades if you want to have one with it. And blinding grenades are so good at controlling ads, especially when you're under light and in close quarter situations. When we're doing the dungeon in the first day and I was like 35 to 40 light under, I was using Wendigo with blinding grenades to pretty much control everything in every single room. That way we wouldn't die. And this weapon with blinding grenades is something I'm going to definitely consider taking into the next raid, depending on what the encounters are like, because of the fact that if you can just make things not be able to hit you, I mean, that is one of the best ways to stay alive. Then the final magazine option I want to show off is going to be proximity grenades, which we all probably know what they do. Pretty much whenever the grenade gets close to an enemy, it will explode for you, which means you don't have to be very precise. And it makes it a lot easier with these breach launcher grenade launchers that only shoot one at a time and don't follow in a straight line. It'll make it a little bit easier to hit all of your shots during ad clear. Moving on to the first perk column, there's going to be a lot of perks that are all really good, a bunch of reload perks. I'm actually going to talk about them more as we talk about the right column perks. So first starting with Swashbuckler, which is going to be a damage increase to the weapon when you get kills, and also if you get a melee kill, it procs the entire stack of ×5, which is very good. It means you can get the ×5 very quickly, then also maintain it for ad clear very easily. So looking at the damage on Greg without it, we hit these 2 numbers, then we go ahead and get a melee kill to get ×5, and shoot at Greg once again. Numbers will go up quite a bit, and it's actually going to be exactly that 33% that it is on primaries also, which is pretty interesting. So it's actually a pretty good damage increase that's very easy to do for ad clear and also major targets. So with Swashbuckler, the best perk to pair with it would be Grave Robber, because of the fact you're going to be getting melee kills often to get ×5, and those melee kills will also reload the weapon for you. Next up, we have multi-kill clip, which is going to be pretty interesting on a GL, because of the fact that once you reload, it will take how many ever rapid kills you had before, and that is the stack of the buff you'll get. So if you want ×3, you have to get a triple kill per grenade, which is not very easy in some situations, but if you can pull it off, it will be the highest damage buff just like it is on primaries at 50%, which is pretty good. But it's not going to be a very realistic perk to actually pull off in most boss fights, but you can easily make it work for ad clear, especially with something like proximity grenades in your magazine option. So for the God Roll for that, I would pair multi-kill clip with Feeding Frenzy, and maybe even something like Field Prep. Another perk this weapon can come with is Demolitionist, which if you watch my videos regularly, you probably know it's one of my favorite perks in the game. And Demo on special and heavy weapons work a little bit better than primaries. You actually get a bigger chunk per kill, which makes sense because the ammo is more rare. So this works really well with this weapon, and one of the perks I would recommend the highest. And with Demolitionist, you'd want to pair it with something like Auto-Loading Holster, which I do not have yet. You could also pair it with something like Feeding Frenzy, but I think Auto-Loading Holster makes the most sense because it helps with the playstyle grenades where you just shoot it once, then take out your primary. And the final perk I want to talk about is going to be Disruption Break, where breaking an enemy shield with this weapon makes them more vulnerable to kinetic damage for a brief period. So if I break a shield of an enemy, usually my breach light hits for 1993. But if I go ahead and break the shield with this GL and proc Disruption Break, it now goes up to 2989, which is going to be a 50% increase for quite a while. I believe it's like 10 seconds, which is very, very good. And with this perk, I would probably pair it with Auto-Loading Holster once again, because of the fact that you're going to be shooting it once to break a shield, and then pulling out your primary to take advantage of the perk. So on this weapon, there's going to be a few God rolls I'd recommend. The first being Grave Robber plus Swashbuckler, which is going to be very good for ad clear and single target damage. Then I'll recommend something like Auto-Loading Holster and Demolitionist. And finally, in the right situation, a Feeding Frenzy and Multi-Kill Clip one could do pretty good too. Now moving on to the DPS of this weapon, looking at the damage on Greg, recapping all the different perks. The base was 17,000, with Swash it went up to almost 23,000, then with multi-kill clip times 3 it was just under 26,000. Now looking at the rate of fire of the weapon, shooting off 5 grenades with maximum reload speed. It's going to take quite a while. At 6.408 seconds, meaning DPS is 13.5 thousand, and with Swash it goes up to 18,000, and with multi-kill clip it goes to 20.2 thousand, which none of those numbers are necessarily great. So comparing it to Mountaintop, and one Mountaintop grenade on Greg hits for 24,983, which is pretty much right in between Swashbuckler and multi-kill clip on the Truthteller. And once again, looking at the rate of fire of 5 shots with Mountaintop this time, it's going to take pretty much the exact same amount of time at 6.441 seconds. Meaning DPS is 19,394, which once again is between Swashbuckler and also the multi-kill clip of Truthteller. And none of these DPS numbers are great by themselves. You compare it with Anarchy, and that will help a little bit, raising all the numbers up by 14,457, but it's still not that great for DPS. And ever since the auto-loading nerf to the Encyclopedia faction, these weapons have been overrated in my opinion for DPS, but they're still pretty good for other things. Now moving on to a few cool builds with this grenade launcher. The first two are going to be generic builds I can do on any character, so looking at those, starting off with Blast Radius. This will allow us to become Chargeable Light on double kills with our Truthteller. Then we're also going to use stacks on stacks, that way every single time we get a double kill with Truthteller, we get 2 stacks of Chargeable Light. We're also going to use Supercharge, which will allow us to get to ×4 Chargeable Light. So if we get 4 rapid kills with our GL, we'll have ×4 Chargeable Light. Then with our stacks of Chargeable Light, we'll use Extra Reserves. While Chargeable Light, defeating combatants with void damage grants a chance to drop special ammo. This effect consumes all stacks of Chargeable Light. The more stacks you have, the higher chance of gaining the ammo to drop. So pretty much how this whole build works is you get double kills with Truthteller, which then give you Chargeable Light ×2, then eventually ×4. Then once you're ×4 Chargeable Light, you have a very high chance of your next kill dropping special ammo, and when it does, it will consume all of your stacks. It's roughly like every 5 or 6 kills you'll get a green ammo box to drop, which pretty much makes up for the ammo you used getting that perk, so it's pretty much infinite ammo. Another build you can do is going to be very similar. Instead of Extra Reserves, we're going to use Surprise Attack, which is going to give our sidearm double damage whenever we ready it or reload it. And we're going to pair that with our Truthteller that has Disruption Break on it. That way when we break a shield and swap over to our sidearm, we're going to get that 50% increased damage. And the sidearm of choice will be Breach Light, which is my favorite sidearm in the game. So pretty much how this build works is you get double kills to become Chargeable Light. Then whenever you get up to a major, ultra, whatever it is with a shield, you break it with a GL, swap over to Breach Light, which will ready the Surprise Attack mod and give you a charge magazine ×20. Which means you'll have 3x damage for your entire magazine with your sidearm, which is kind of crazy. And if you want to go next level, you can even pair those with Oppressive Darkness to get 30% more damage on top of that. Then if you want to go really crazy, you could also do it with Mechaneer's Trick Sleeves and get 2x damage on top of all of that, resulting in a total of 7.8x damage for your sidearm. And finally, the last build I want to show off in this video will be a Warlock build with Devourer, then also Nezarec Sin, and we're going to be using a Truthteller with Demolitionist for this build because it's Void, which will proc Nezarec Sin. Then when you pair that with Demolitionist and Devourer, we'll begin our grenade very quickly, which speaking of, what we'll be using is Firepower, and we'll be using our stacks of Chargeable Light so that every single time we throw a grenade, it will consume 1 stack and will give us some of our grenade energy back. So pretty much the whole point of this build is pretty straightforward. You get your grenade pretty much in 2 kills. If I had 100 discipline, I'm pretty sure I'd get it in 2 kills exactly. Right now I'm just like a sliver short, but this is obviously very quick grenades. Pair this with Oppressive Darkness, and yeah, infinite Oppressive Darkness grenades on top of really good ad clear with your grenade launcher. So yeah, this GL actually matches up very well with Mountaintop. The DPS is actually pretty similar if you have a perk on this weapon, for example Swashbuckler or multi-kill clip. Obviously for most fights that won't be realistic to have it the entire way, but there's really going to be no replacement for the base damage of Mountaintop. None of the GLs in the game have that same base damage, so once Mountaintop is sunset, it's not going to be like Truthteller is trying to catch up to it, it's going to be just on par with everything else. But there's some really good rules you can get on this that are really good for ad clear, for example Swashbuckler, then also things like Blinding Nades to control the ads. And it works really well with some of these builds I made in this video. The one with Surprise Attack where you become Chargeable Light with GL, then swap over to your sidearm and have pretty much entire magazine of 2x damage. That build is actually really strong and I was really enjoying it. And I think I can actually make that build a little bit better, and I have a lot of good ideas with it, including the Traveler's Chosen exotic when it comes out. So definitely look forward to maybe an upgraded version of this build in the future. But yeah, that build was super fun. Then also the Extra Reserves version of this build is very good too, because of the fact that you have infinite ammo in your special GL, it can use it pretty much like a primary. So yeah, it's definitely worth getting this GL. I wouldn't necessarily recommend farming for it and turning in like thousands of material. Just play throughout the season and you'll probably get some here and there, because of the fact that it pretty much drops from everything. So yeah, just look out for this weapon throughout the season. Keep some of those god rolls I mentioned, and yeah, you'll be good to go for the future in the full DLC. Anyways, thanks for watching. Catch you guys next time.